In what context is a strap-on acceptable for public school?
As you are not an expert, in this book...
I don't have to be an expert to know that those aren't appropriate for public school.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story, why don't they have the right?
Joy,
and you read graphic stuff.
Genuine conversation. Because as we started this conversation, we'll end it. Every parent has a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. Today we are going to be watching Joy Reid, the worst host to ever step foot into a production studio, take on Based Mums for Liberty co-founder Tiffany Justice. The perfect name for this video. They are debating whether or not overtly sexual books should be shown to little kids. And a bit of a disclaimer here, guys. There are some very sensitive topics touched, so make sure the kids can't hear this one. Let's get into it.
LGBTQ parents and parents of LGBTQ kids, do they have parental rights?
Every parent, Joy. Every parent means every parent has the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children.
And liberal parents? Do liberal parents have those rights as well?
All parents. Sure.
So let me point you to some statistics, because the question becomes then who gets to decide what all kids get to read. The Washington Post took a look at about 1,000+ book challenges that were filed, and they found that they were filed nationwide by just 11 people. Each of these people brought 10 or more challenges against books in their school district. Together, these serial filers constituted 6% of all book challengers, but they were responsible for 60% of filings. In Florida, Tampa Bay Times, they found that of roughly 1,100 complaints recorded in Florida since July 2022, we're talking about more than 700 just from two counties, Escambia in the Western Panhandle and Clay County. Together, those are less than 3% of the public school enrollment, 600 of those complaints, 2 people. Why should 13 people get to decide what books tens of thousands of children get to read?
Well, I'm thinking it's probably because those 13 people saw what some of the content was in the books. I mean, explicit, graphic, sexual content. And I'm happy to talk about some of that content if you'd like to.
Well, this is the question again. The books that are being banned, I want to give you just some...
Books are being banned.
No, hold on a second.
Well, no, Joy, but I want to be clear. No one's banning books. Write the book, print the book, publish the book, put the book in the public library, sell the book, right? We're talking about a public school library. Children don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. I did a FOIA records request, and I wanted to see what kinds of internet sites are banned in schools, if we're going to talk about banning, right? And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet. So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
Let me give you an example of some of the books that have been removed from shelves as a result of the activities of organizations like Moms for Liberty.
We're not going to talk like Moms for Liberty. We're going to talk specifically Moms for Liberty.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to have this conversation with you, Joy.
Absolutely.
But we're going to be specific about the actions of Moms for Liberty chapters.
Oh, 100%.
Because I can't be possibly responsible for every single parent in America.
But your organization is the lead. You're the leading organization that's doing this. You have chapters all over the country, and other organizations are following your lead. And PEN America has listed, they have posted the list of books that have been removed from shelves as a result of these activities. Let me just read you a couple of them. Anne Frank's A Diary of a Young Girl. Mouse, which is a book about the Holocaust, a graphic novel. Genderqueer, a memoir. All Boys Aren't Blue. Beloved, Martin Luther King Jr. and the March on Washington. Ruby Bridges Goes to School. Slaughterhouse-Five, The Color Purple, Forever by Judy Blume. I could go on. These are books that are not only popular, in some cases are classics. Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. Let me give you an example.
Well, I'd like to answer your question.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just mentioned a list of books. And so Moms for Liberty doesn't have like a national book list. There was never a list of books that we put out and said, parents, be concerned about these books, right? We didn't do it because we want our parents to be effective advocates. So when moms are going into the libraries in the schools, when they're seeing what their children have access to, when they go to speak to the superintendent or the principal, they have accurate information, right? They're
and where are they
getting
their information from?
You can just go online to a catalog in your children's library, and you can see what
without
books are
reading
available.
the books. What is book? What is? One moment. What is booklooks.com?
I'm aware of a website called booklooks.com where parents can go and see some of the books that other parents are concerned about.
Booklooks.com has been used in Florida extensively in counties like, I used to live in Broward County. I lived there for 14 years.
Okay.
In counties like Broward, counties like Clay, counties like Escambia, Moms for Liberty activists are using booklooks.com. And it's essentially a Cliff Notes for books.
Yeah.
So you go through without even having to read the book. I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has pushed
Everyone
to have
should go and see the content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what happens is you can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like
you can find sure.
Or or
you can find all sorts
those types
of keywords.
Of words. But like,
wait, hold on, wait. Let me finish my question.
Okay,
then
great,
you can answer.
sure.
I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
No, yeah, I got the question.
And so,
Imagine being Joy Reid and waking up in the morning and saying to yourself, what am I going to do today? How about I go and defend the case for children to be shown basically pornographic material in the classroom? Let me get my assistant to prepare my notes. And this is about to get even worse, but I want to be very clear with what I see during this debate. I don't see Joy Reid as somebody who's trying to have a good faith debate. Not even on her best of days is she doing that. No. I see the mouthpiece of a broken, disgusting, demonic culture of overt sexualization of the populace that inevitably leads to the sexualization of children. These are the people that will try and get the Bible banned from schools. Think about that for a moment. As Jesse Lee Peterson says, Satan is your daddy. And now think about how difficult it is these days as a parent to avoid having your child sexualized by the culture. And if you'd like to see how pervasive it is, just go to the Billboard Top 100 and look at all of the female top artists, all of the role models, the ones that the young girls of today are looking up to, the ones that they're constantly listening to, watching their music videos and making dances to their songs on TikTok. And I'll do a full video on this at some point. But number one, Ariana Grande, 30 years old. The message is basically, I do whatever I want all the time, sleep with whoever I want, and nobody is ever allowed to criticize me because Yas Queen. Taylor Swift, oh, she's good. They say, oh, she's a nice... No. 34 years old, still singing about how much she loves bad boys and how she knew you were trouble when you walked in with 75 ex-boyfriends. Tate McRae, didn't know who she was, looked at the video, ho. Doja Cat, worships the devil. SZA, don't even know what that means, but probably also worships Lucifer. Tyler had no idea who she was, watched the video. Literally the whole thing is about getting drilled. And then... just pure daylight robbery. Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs are below these degenerates in the charts. And then they go onto Instagram and TikTok and they're inundated with photos and videos of other women and girls of all ages doing sexual dances and getting a lot of attention. Much of the time getting attention from the kinds of people you don't want your child getting attention from. These apps are literally paradises. So then is it any surprise with this inundation of degeneracy in the culture and the things that children are constantly being exposed to, willingly exposed to, behind the backs of their parents every single day, is it any surprise that the classroom is now teaching it as well? Of course that's happening. This doesn't end in the 1960s with a little bit of sexual revolution, with a little bit of summer loving. No. This is an ideology that, unless destroyed, expands endlessly. And then what scares me is you have people like Joy Reid normalizing this stuff and defending it, because the inevitable logical conclusion of this is that pedophilia itself eventually is defended and normalized. And I know that sounds shocking and inconceivable, but just follow the logical path and you get there. That is the devil's plan. Let's continue.
So what you find is the keywords that you find, the N-word, anything, words like you just used, then you'll get out of context passages from the book. And then based on that, Moms for Liberty members are going to places like Broward County School Board meetings, reading out of context passages from these books, and then demanding that the school board remove them.
So what's
that is the way.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for
do.
you. In what context is a strap-on acceptable for public school? Just I mean, that's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on or the of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No,
Wait,
we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Aren't Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is presenting
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't
specific things.
Joy.
Here's my question.
We're talking about
Here's my question.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation, okay?
Okay, great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert, in this book...
I don't have to be an expert to know that those aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
This book is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right, or a Moms for Liberty activist's right, to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
So, again, we're talking about incest and pedophilia.
And each parent... No.
Before we continue, guys, quickly chuck a like on this video if you do appreciate this message, if you think it's important. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, right below. Back to the clips.
Each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask you one more time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story, why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been by a family member, they've experienced...
and your that is what?
You just said that
What's
if a child feels seen by this story. What I'm saying, Joy...
You're now making assumptions about it.
No, but if a child has been... We should do a lot better than put a book on the library
shelf. Now you're literally creating a story
give...
behind a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida.
Okay.
I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is called the opt... Yeah, please, I'm going to hand it to you.
Thank you so much.
It's called the opt-out form.
Okay.
An opt-out form would allow any parent, because you said you are in favor of parental rights.
I am.
It would allow any parent to opt out of their child being able to take books out of the library without their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue,
right,
that they can make that choice? Because then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they get their rights.
We want children to read books
Why
about
not just
African-American
opt
history,
out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level, and that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content, the dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
Let's do
I'm so sorry.
Let's do a back room. Let's put a curtain up in the library
First
like
of all,
they used to do.
One moment.
In the video stores. Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
The books that Moms for Liberty.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
America used to understand that there's something called age-appropriate content.
So Stephanie said that it's a step in the right direction. You agree with her, but Joy Reid just keeps talking over her. She keeps on changing the topic, like the disingenuous human being that she is, instead of answering Tiffany's very well put question. Under what circumstances is it okay to show this? Spoiler alert, guys, never. Because kids should be learning how to do the cut and paste where they just stick it on the pages and draw the pictures and do a bit of maths and writing and reading books like Humpty Dumpty or something. There isn't a situation conceivable in my mind, and feel free to try and change my mind in the comments if you'd like, whereby a teacher that reads this kind of material to a child at school behind the backs of their parents is not put in prison. I don't personally think that that's really a point that's up for debate. So let's hope that when Trump gets back into office, he does what Viktor Orban has done in Hungary.
The law is about that to decide what kind of way the parents would like sexually educate the kids, exclusively belonging to the parents.
This sort of material in schools and on TV shows for anybody below the age of 18 should be illegal.
Welkom bij Gewoon Bloot. In Gewoon Bloot gaan volwassen mensen geheel uit de kleren, zodat wij er wat van kunnen leren. Deze kinderen uit groep 7 en 8 mogen aan hen alles vragen over hun blote lichaam. En vandaag hebben we als gasten transgenders.
Zie heb ik wel wat in mijn broek, maar ik heb nog steeds een...
That's what has to be done. Not having a conversation about it, because that sort of thing is never okay. And if you feel differently, if you feel like there are situations, then I would suggest you take a really good hard look in the mirror and you think for a little while about why you believe that. On to the last.
Right, and here's my
We have
question again.
ratings on movies.
Again. Ruby Bridges Goes to School is on the list of books that Moms for Liberty has attempted to have removed.
Absolutely not.
It absolutely is. Let me ask about the people who are making the decision for their parents, because you have not answered yet why a liberal parent or an African-American parent
We
can't
have
say
parents who are Democrats who are members of our organization.
But you're still trying to make decisions for all the kids. Here are some of the parents that are filing, or some of your advocates. Bridget Ziegler, the Moms for Liberty co-founder, the wife of the recently ousted Florida Republican Party chairman, Christian Ziegler, who allegedly was involved in threesomes, same-sex threesomes. Mrs. Ziegler was removed from the school board at which she was a leader. You've had
She wasn't removed from the school board.
Okay, you have Lauren DePaula. She was making book ban requests in Alachua County, but then records show that she and her husband didn't live there. They'd sold their home in that county. Carrie Blair in Tennessee, who was arrested for property theft charges after allegedly stealing from Target, skip scanning in Target. Why should those three people get to make decisions about what other children should be able to read? Other parents' children should be able to read.
Do you know that I served as a school board member from 2016 to 2020?
Are you going to answer my question?
Yeah, I'm
because
going
we don't
to.
have an endless time.
Joy, I'm going to answer your question, but I need you to understand that when I was an elected representative, I would sit on that dais, and how dare I, sitting there as an elected representative, judge a parent when they would come to the podium to speak and advocate for their child? Because as we started this conversation, we'll end it. Every parent has a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children. And I would not stand in judgment, Joy, about a parent's education level, their sexual orientation, their race, their religion. That is not what America is about.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to ask my question, Ms. Justice. Mrs. Justice. That's
Thank you.
If a parent believes that their child should be able to read Ruby Bridges,
we believe that children should be able to read.
Then how can Moms
American
for Liberty
hero.
insist that the school board take that book away and then say that a parent who wants the child to be able to read it must purchase it? That's essentially putting a tax on parents who want their children to read the book. Your kids get to have books for free that you agree with, but children who want to read, or parents who want their children to read books you don't like, have to purchase it. That doesn't sound
Joy,
fair.
Did you know that in the city that we're sitting in, only a quarter of children are reading on grade level?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And so while we're having this conversation about books in libraries, two things should be happening.
That's a great point.
We should be talking about literacy rates and the fact that America's kids are not learning how to read, and we should be having vibrant conversations about what books should be in libraries.
Absolutely.
So well done to Tiffany here. And one of the other points that it highlights is the power of base conservative mums, because you can spit on us, you can kick dirt in our face, you can call us racists. But when you come for the kids, you'd better watch out for the grizzly mama bears. So with that, guys, find me below, hit those links, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to watch another video, click right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.